Anime tie-in games. They're a strange lot. While most of them go for appropriating successful game formulas, every so often you get one that tries to break from the norm and do something completely unique, with varying levels of success. One such anime to receive adaptations is Yu Yu Hakusho, based on the successful Shonen Jump manga of the same name. I was first exposed to the series around 2006 when it was debuted on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim programming block. The main premise of the anime follows a young delinquent by the name of Yusuke Urameshi, who gave his life to save a child from a freak accident. Apparently, Yusuke's act of selflessness was so uncharacteristically selfless that even God himself, or rather his son, hadn't anticipated, thus making Yusuke's death a fluke.
In other words, your death was a complete and utter waste!
In typical anime fashion, however, he's offered a second chance at life,
with superpowers!
With the huge condition that he becomes what's known as a spirit detective, an individual who works to keep peace in the human world by tracking down demonic interlopers. As you'd expect, the show follows Yusuke's exploits and those of his close rivals and allies. As a teen, I was all about Yu Yu Hakusho. It was just so awesome that I honestly fell in love after just one episode. I won't spoil anything else, but do be warned that if you haven't seen the series, and I'd recommend it if you haven't, some of the things I'll be covering might be slight spoilers. So around the same time, I found out that you could play these with this. Not the keyboard, the computer. You get it. I mean, sure, nowadays that's kind of commonplace, but back then that was a big deal. I remember that following Monday I was pretty excited to tell one of my friends about what I had found out over the weekend, but he was kind of already ahead of the game. He introduced me to a slew of Dragon Ball games, and they were all pretty good. They were all tournament fighters like Street Fighter 2, but honestly, I can't really think of any other way to make a Dragon Ball game. A weekend or two after, I remember we come up with the idea of looking for other anime games like the Dragon Ball games. Turns out, there were Yu Yu Hakusho games too. I was pretty freaking excited, not gonna lie. Whereas the Dragon Ball games were similar to Street Fighter 2, the Yu Yu Hakusho game was more like a straight-up clone. Heck, most of the special inputs are literally identical. For example, Yusuke's signature move, Spirit Gun, is quarter circle forward. Sound familiar? It should if you've ever played a Capcom fighter, ever. All in all, I really wasn't too impressed. Like, to be honest, it wasn't bad, just not that great either. The controls are kinda stiff. I mean, to be fair, you'll probably rarely accidentally activate a special. When compared to a game like, say, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, it just feels like you have to be super deliberate with your inputs. But not that that even matters. In this game, you don't even need to do special moves to win. Quarter circle forward? Forward B, chump! No, but seriously. When I was trying to get footage for this very video, I sort of accidentally stumbled on this OP as fruit move. I almost got through the entirety of the arcade mode by literally pressing nothing but forward B. Well, okay, occasionally I'd have to perform a throw if the CPU was blocking too much. But see, the problem is that if you can manage to get into the, I guess, point blank range, Yusuke goes from doing a long range kick to kneeing the opponent in the crotch. It's honestly the fact that you can spam the move rapid fire in combination with the stun lock the move produces that makes it so deadly. All you have to do is push the opponent into a corner, then spam knees until the opponent dies. I honestly can't get over how OP this move is. I'm literally untouchable. Oh. Well, that's just no fun. Screw you too, Shishi. And your zoning spam. Yeah, we're done with that. Now this next game is Yu Yu Hakusho Tokubetsu Hin, or just Yu Yu Hakusho 3. This game's a little bit different than the one before it. While the second game went for a Street Fighter 2 clone approach, this one actually went for something completely different and kinda weird. But you know what? I actually really like it. This one's actually categorized as a cinematic fighter, a genre I honestly didn't even know existed until I looked it up for this very review. That being said, I like this one a lot actually. I feel like this game could really lead to some intense moments, but unfortunately I just don't have anyone else to play with. I'd have a better chance at just cloning myself. But I won't make that mistake twice. There's a lot of charm in this game. Starting out, the sprites are super detailed. Usually with retro games, we compliment the visuals if they do a good job of representing the characters. These sprites, on the other hand, are identical to their anime counterparts, just with their color range compressed to something more appropriate for a 16-bit console. It's honestly this kind of stuff that makes me truly nostalgic, in fact. Games like this one and Donkey Kong Country, the type that had a vision greater than the console they were housed on had hardware to handle. While games like this make the limits and constraints of their day and age more apparent, isn't that exactly what gives retro games their charm anyways? Well, anyway, I was gonna say that the next game is Yu Yu Hakusho 1, or just Yu Yu Hakusho. This game should look pretty similar to the last one because literally it is the same. Technically, this is the first Yu Yu Hakusho game to have come out for the Super Famicom, but I'm ordering these as I remember playing them, so for me this technically comes next. All in all, I can't say too much more about it than what I've already said, but there's at least a few things I want to mention. First and foremost, this one features audio that is bit crushed even more than the audio in the sequel. I don't even see how that's possible. Another bigger difference is that this game features a story mode unlike the sequel. It's nothing too spectacular, but it's a nice addition. The game incorporates different plot arcs than the sequel, but that's sort of to be expected. This game takes place from the first arc to the end of the Dark Tournament saga, my personal favorites. As far as I'm concerned, it loses some of the more interesting characters from the Dark Tournament saga and replaces them with less interesting Sensui saga characters. Having played both games now, I feel Yu Yu Hakusho Tokubetsu Hin must have been a somewhat rushed project. I feel like the sequel lacks a story mode because the story arc it references most heavily was either likely incomplete at the time, or they were trying to avoid spoilers. Also, the characters themselves don't even have all the abilities they reasonably should have if this is taking place at the end of the Sensui saga. That's all a shame too, because that means that none of the cinematic Yu Yu Hakusho fighters take place during the 3 Demon King arc. But alas, none of the games get that far. I said none of these take place during the 3 Demon King saga. Finally, this last one is... it's definitely not my favorite of the bunch. In fact, I kind of feel like it's the worst. It's from the 3 Kings saga. Starting out, the title sequence isn't too bad, but it feels lacking. It pales in comparison to the ones that came before it. It takes after the second game in the series, going back to the Street Fighter II clone approach. It controls okay, I guess. Nothing fantastic, feels a bit stiff, but honestly it still feels better than 2, so I'll give it a pass there. But my biggest problem is everything just looks so wrong. Almost all the characters have these odd proportions about them. Like, why is everyone's leg so long? Also, what in the world are these characters wearing? Where did these outfits come from? Like, seriously, when does Kurama wear thigh-high go-go boots? And on that matter, where is Makuro? Instead, we've got this character that just looks like Sarah Connor if she had ripped her arm off and replaced it with a T-1000's arm. Sarah Connor. I guess that would make Tagoro Arnie then. Makuro. Now that I think about it, I feel like I've seen her actual outfit here recently. In fact, even a couple of minutes ago. Who are you anyway? And what are you doing in my house? Just... Gah! Ugh. Hey guys, thank you for watching my video. If you liked this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to stay up to date on all things CrunchYama, go ahead and follow me on social media. Links are in the description. Lastly, if you want to see more, you can click right here to watch my last episode where I talked about the Sega Genesis cult classic, ToeJam and Earl. Thanks for watching! The anime tie-in game. I just drew a blank. That might be a blooper.